Welcome. This demonstration is on 3D value maps, and what we're going to learn in this is the value in perspective drawings and how to do shadows with in a perspective drawing. So in this case, you'll need a 45-degree triangle. That's the one with two equal sides. And you will need, I'm going to go ahead and work in a red pencil, but for you, a standard pencil is fine. And then you will also need your colored pencils, your cool grays, 10%, or is it 10%, 30%? 30%, 50%, 70%, and 90% for this demonstration. So I'm going to go ahead and work in red so that you can see it a little bit better on the film, or on the video, if you will. When we have a three-dimensional object, anytime, just like in a two-dimensional drawing, we have a single light source. Again, we don't render to artificial light source in this particular class. So in this case, our light source, just like before, is top left and coming across in a horizontal fashion. So some of the points that we need to make is here, these are our values. So this is the bright side, which gets the sunlight directly. We have our light side, and in reality, this is typically the closest to the actual color or value of the object or the material. Then we have the shade side and the shadow side. So when we create this shadow, we use, again, our 45-degree angle. And our light source is perpendicular to our object, and so everything comes out at a 45, or excuse me, the angle of the light comes at a 45-degree angle, and our shadow is cast horizontally. So from each corner, we're going to take a horizontal line and a horizontal line. Then to figure out how long our shadow is where we use our 45-degree triangle. And you can see here on the dashed lines is the 45 degrees. So my point comes to this point, 45 from this corner. And again, you're going to line it up with the edge of your paper. And that gives us that corner. And then lastly, our hidden corner. And that also creates a 45-degree line. So let's try this on an actual object, which is this cube right here. So first thing I'm going to do is identify my sides. So this is the bright side, which is the top surface, the light side, the shade side, and the shadow is always cast from the shade side. So I start with my closest corner, and with my straight edge, my 45-degree angle, I'm going to draw a horizontal line out some distance. And I'm going to do that just a little harder so you can see it better. Then from this corner, so this edge, this is the height of our object. So from that corner, I'm going to take a 45-degree line down until it crosses. So that's how long that corner shadow is right there. So let's go off of our next one, and we're going to do another horizontal line and a 45-degree angle from that post, which is here, which is right here. And then we all know that we have a hidden line back here. So I'm going to do this very lightly. And these all go to a vanishing point, left and right. And we're just going to kind of estimate this. I got that one off just a hair. There we go. So we're going to estimate that as our corner. And we're going to do a horizontal line out some distance. And then a 45-degree line down till it crosses that line. So now to find my shadow, all I have to do is connect those dots. So here is this line, which is the line that's casting the shadow, is this edge right here. And now we want to cast this edge, and that connects on this side. And do that lightly there. So that is our shadow. So now if we take our colored pencils, we can add a little bit of depth to this by taking our number 30 and coloring the top nice and even. And then we take our 50 we can shadow that, add that value in there. We want a nice strong line between those two surfaces. That's going to turn. Then we're going to use our 70 for our shade side. And those are our three values of our cube: bright side, light side, shade side. And then lastly, with our 90, we are going to color in our shadow. Shadow is always going to be the darkest of all the sides. Not overly pretty, but you get the sense of what I'm doing. Okay, so keep in mind that the bright side, in contrast to the light side is twice as dark. The shade side is 3 to 4 times darker than the light side, and then the shadow is always twice as dark as that if we're working on a value contrast. So if we can kind of use this as our map, we're going to try, I'm going to show you, I'm not going to do the entire drawing here, but I'm going to give you an idea of how that translates into actual furniture. So now I'm going to use my pencil. So the first thing, and you can see that this ottoman is basically a rectangle. So it's going to have the same kind of look as we have here. And I'm just going to put a line out some distance. I go over just a hair. And again, if this was my corner, here's the height of my ottoman. And I'm just going to line that up with my vertical. And I'm going to bring down the 45-degree angle. Now remember, that's just cast. That's not an actual shadow. The shadow falls on the ground. Here is our second edge. And again, 45 from the top corner. And then our hidden line across the back. Kind of match these here. And it's approximately there. So I'm going to go a horizontal line out here and then cast my shadow, and we get a point right here. So now I'm going to align. So that's the shadow from that edge. And that is the shadow from that edge. And here's the back corner that I pulled over here. So there's my shadow line on the floor. So in this particular case, I can come in and I can go ahead and add the value to this. So this is my bright side. This, again, my 30% pencil is the edge of my ottoman. Trying to go a little quicker here, so I'm not exactly doing very pretty here. But there is kind of my light side. Then I'm going to use my 70 for the shade side. And I want a nice contrast between all three of those sides. So if you need to push a little harder just to get your values to change a little bit more, is there. And then my 90 is for my shadow. Now, so that's kind of what that looks like in that. Now, let's look at the walls. All right, so in this case, in my vignette, I have a wall that is in the same plane as my light side. So that would be my 30%. And I'm just going to kind of wash this on here. So that's my 30%. And I can fill that in a little bit better. I don't want to take too much time with the demo, but I want to make sure that this corner is properly done here so that I can see how these things change a little bit in relationship to the other. And this wall over here is on my shade side, So it's parallel with this one. So this is my shade side, and it's going to be a little darker. And again, I want to make sure that that's a nice clean line so I can actually get that sense that that turns. And that would go all the way down, and we'd color down in here and that sort of thing. I want to make sure that you see this corner and how that actually works. So I'm going to... So there's an absolute value change between these two surfaces. And again, I'm sorry I'm coloring so messy, but the point comes across. So there's our two values. So we have a 30 and a 70 with our pencils. But there's a definite value change between those two surfaces. Now let's identify some of the parts of the chair. So here, the arms are on the shade side. So we're going to get a nice dark separation there and a dark separation there. And just a little bit here because this edge rolls down. It rolls down. And the same way with the back of our chair. Our back is in shade. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that just a little bit so I can get that value to come out there. And in this case, it comes up to the top and it actually gradates between, because it rolls over and it actually goes to the light side up here. So there's a nice transitional change there that's very soft because that's not an actual corner, but it will appear to be. And I've got it kind of lost up here. If I darken this back wall up a little bit to where you can kind of see how that changes there. You see that? So there's a change right at that point. Now, this side is our light side, and our arm comes up. It's our light side, so that's our 30, and then it goes up to the bright side. And the same way with this arm, and I'm going to cover right over my plant. And then the very top of the arm is going to be my very light, along with the top of the seat. All right, so now this underneath side, that's my light side, and this whole side is also a light side. I'm just going to ignore my plant for the moment. Okay, now I have some shadows going on here that I want to go in And if I take my 45-degree line and pull it right down to my shoulder, because that rounds, so does my shadow rounds right at this point. So we get a rounding that goes on right here after we measure. And then that continues on the seat. So in order to help blend that just a little bit more, I can come back over the top with that gray 70 pencil to help. Now, I have a really fine shadow that happens right in here, and that's all right. But you can start to see right under this arm, I have another shadow that helps pull that arm right out. And then that goes back into the 50. And there's the 50. So you can start to see how these objects now, there's a shadow, by the way, on the arm here, comes down on the ottoman, and the ottoman, and arm. So it follows that same kind of shape as our arm. We have another one over here. And they're the same distance out, but that gives me just a little bit of shadow going on there. So you can kind of see how the values really start to change here, and we really start to get this sense of three-dimensionality. That's what we're going through. So remember, shadows are horizontal. The distance is cast with a right angle from the top corner down, and we put a dot. You notice that I don't have shadows here, even though when I drew this line, remember this 45? Remember this 45 is simply the light that's being cast. So this doesn't have any shadow there, only on the floor or the surface where that shadow is being cast. I hope this helps to explain values and the values of surfaces and the cast shadow.